everyone. Welcome to tonight's episode of My Favorite Book. We're going to talk to Mylo Mendez in just a second. My name is Monica. I'll be your host tonight. This is the 7th episode of My Favorite Book. Woohoo! Before we get started, I just want to acknowledge that the land from which we're broadcasting is part of the traditional territory of the Lenni Lenape people. Please join us in acknowledging the Lenape community, their elders both past and present, as well as future generations. Booklyn Inc. is a nonprofit organization located in Brooklyn, New York. We are celebrating 22 years of promoting artist books as both art, research materials, and tools for social justice. We distribute work by artists and organizations within the academic market. We host workshops and exhibitions, and we publish books and archival box sets. We're really excited to be doing our first serialized online program, My Favorite Book. This is a program where we ask 18 different artists to very quickly, in 15 minutes, tell us about their favorite book that they've ever made. Every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday throughout the entire month of June, we'll have a new episode for you from 7 to 7:30 every night. Check our website for a full schedule or drop in any night for the latest episode. For more information about us, you can check out our website. Let me flash you a banner. Booklyn.org. You can follow us on Instagram at BooklinArt or any other social media platform. And then there are a bunch of great links on Linktree/Booklyn. One in particular, which might be relevant tonight, because our guest is an educator, is the new redesign of the Booklyn Education Manual. This is a fantastic collectively made resource. It's super free, and you can download it right now through the link on Linktree. Okay. Tonight, we're so delighted to introduce Mylo Mendez, who is an artist and educator currently residing in Austin, Texas. They're going to present their book, Don't Fucking Touch Me, which I can say, I think. They'll talk for about 15 minutes, and then we'll do a brief Q&A. While Mylo is talking, you can write any comments or questions you have for them in the chat, and then we'll get to them afterwards. All right, now I'm going to bring on our friend Mylo. Hi, Mylo.
Hi.
How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I'm going to hand it over to you.
Cool. Yeah. So I'm going to be chatting a little bit about my tiny little book here called Don't Fucking Touch Me. So it's a mini zine, right? A very small book. And just a little bit about it. It's part of a project that I do. So I have this project called Queer Fight School, and that project was started in 2018. And I train Muay Thai and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which are two different types of martial arts. And I started training both of those things and felt really connected to my body and felt really powerful and strong. And felt like great regarding like some anxiety issues I was having. It was really helping with that. And the whole point of Queer Fight School is to sort of make those resources more accessible for femmes, for queer folks, for trans folks. So part of like martial arts, at least within the US, martial arts gyms can be very expensive. So economically, they can be hard to access. And then also kind of culturally, they often or can be just full of like machismo. So not very welcoming. I was lucky enough to find a gym who the head coach was a queer woman of color, and she was wonderful. And I sort of got lucky in that I had this space where I was able to train and feel comfortable and supported. And a lot of my training partners were women and were queer. And I just wanted to work to make that a little bit more accessible. So part of what Queer Fight School did, and I started this in Brooklyn, actually. So I started doing beginner workshops that were free or donation-based, open to like femmes and queer and trans folks. Beginner classes, so people who didn't have any experience could come and could have access to these things as a way to empower people and just add some tools maybe for mental health, for physical well-being, for self-defense even. And that's where this little zine comes in. So Don't Fucking Touch Me is a small, humble little zine about basically if someone were to grab your wrist, it gives you a couple of ways that you could potentially get your hand free. So inside of the zine is very simple, right? So it sort of just points to the weak points in someone's grasp if they were to grab your wrist, which would be the points where their thumb and fingers meet around, right? So if someone's grabbing my wrist, that would be the weak point, even if those parts of your hand overlap. If you were to, and the zine sort of goes through this, if you were to like rotate your hand to try to get free, you would want to rotate it towards those weak points. And so this zine sort of goes through and it talks about the motion, the rotation. It's a little bit like the wax on, wax off from Karate Kid. If the grip is really strong, you can add an additional like opposing force, meaning that like you can rotate your hand towards the weak point while pushing their arm. It's kind of hard to do alone, but but you could go to Queer Fight School, the Instagram, and see that, or there's some other amazing resources that I would love to shout out in the end here. So yeah, and so it's just a short zine that sort of talks about that. And the reason why it's my favorite is I'm just like truly the biggest fan of the mini zine. Monica mentioned that I'm an educator. I teach art mostly in elementary school, but have had the pleasure of teaching zines as well as some other art things to middle schoolers, high schoolers. I used to teach at a university. And I just think that zines are these wonderful educational tools. Just historically, they've documented subcultures and queer history, and to be able to share that with students and to be able to give them a tool that allows them to think about themselves and what part of themselves they would love to share with other people, to have something like this accessible, whereas like you don't need a lot of supplies, right? So the mini zine is just a single piece of paper and it's just folded. You don't need a staple, you don't need glue, it's just like kind of this amazing little thing that you can make and create with people. And it's something that you can do with many different ages. And I just really love mini zines. So I think that's why this in particular is one of my is my favorite book that I've made. So yeah, if I could, I'd love to shout out maybe some resources if you're interested, if this interests you, right? If you're into self-defense or possibly martial arts. If you're based in New York, there is Pop Gym, which I've worked with and I love them so much. They do free workshops, free intro self-defense workshops. There is a gym in Red Hook called Devilfish Athletics, and that is my former coach and my dear, dear friend. And so the gym is owned by a woman of color, a queer woman of color. It's just a welcoming, amazing environment. You can do strength training and Muay Thai there. And let's see, I'm trying to think of some other resources. If you follow Pop Gym on Instagram or you follow Queer Fight School on Instagram, there's some other resources there. And the amazing thing and something that I kind of love about just like the queer martial arts community is a lot of people are doing amazing work all over the places. There's a gym in California, 4 Elements. They're super queer friendly, I believe also owned by a queer person of color. And there's folks in Chicago that have come to New York and done workshops there. And anyways, I just like shouting out people, but I really appreciative of the queer martial arts community. And I hope that if you happen to get your hands on this zine, that it is helpful in some way. And I hope that if you are looking for martial arts or some sort of physical activity, you'll think about martial arts and hopefully find a place that, just makes you feel powerful and strong and safe, hopefully.
Can you read it to us, Mylo?
Oh, sorry. Sure. I'm sorry. Okay. Don't fucking touch me. So it says, whenever a hand grabs something, the weakest point of that grip will be where the thumb and fingers meet. And even when the thumb and fingers are able to overlap in a strong grip, the thumb or the overlapping area of thumb and fingers will be the weakest point. So even if I have these like tiny little wrists, even if someone is able to wrap their fingers around, even though they're overlapping, that's still the weakest point in the grip. If someone grabs your wrist with a single hand, rotate and pull towards that weak point. So you want to rotate and pull towards where their thumb and fingers are connecting. And you can think of this as a motion as something similar to the wax on, wax off motion from the movie Karate Kid. The motion can be big or small, and that sort of depends on what's necessary for that moment. But no matter what, always go towards the weak point of the grip. If the grip on your wrist is very strong and the rotation with your single arm isn't enough, you can add additional power by using an opposing force, a push or a slap with your other arm. Push or slap in one direction while rotating and pulling your wrist towards the weak point of the grip in the other direction. And then in the back, it's me thanking my coaches and training partners who I've had over the years that have helped me train these things and have taught me these things and also have supported my own martial arts growth and supported this project.
Hi, Mylo.
Hey.
That was great. Thanks for sharing that with us.
Sure.
I'm just going to quickly flash some of the shout outs that you gave to popgym.org. And also on Instagram, you can follow Queer Fight School here. I didn't catch the second one, but I'll put that in the notes below after we get off the call, and I'll ask you about that.
Awesome.
And then we do have a question here. Let's see. I love this how-to manual. Do you have dreams of making other martial arts how-to zines?
Yes, I have another one, the self-defense starter kit. And basically that's an introduction to some things. If you've never been in a martial arts gym or you don't know much about martial arts, kind of trying to understand self-defense can be hard because everyone has sort of their own opinions about what is good self-defense. And oftentimes it will be like cis men that teach these classes in martial arts gyms, and they're kind of like teaching you these things about like how to take a gun out of someone's hand or someone popping up out of a bush randomly. And like as a queer person, I know that that isn't often how we experience violence. Usually it's interpersonal violence, so it can come from like a family member or a romantic partner. And those are people who are within close proximity to you. Those are people that maybe live in the house that you live in, maybe share the same bed with you. And so I want to provide resources that come from the people that actually experience the violence or experience those things, instead of like guys who are just sort of guessing but have no idea. But in the future, I would really like to keep doing these things, and I'm restarting Queer Fight School here in Texas. We're doing an open mat for jiu-jitsu for Pride Month, and following that, I hope to hop back into doing workshops for folks that have not been able to or haven't felt comfortable accessing those things in gyms, especially post-COVID. And so yeah, hopefully lots more in the future.
I love this scene. Have I told you that? really love it. And I was sort of geeking out with a mutual friend of ours earlier today about how much we love it. And one thing that came up for me that I remembered is we distributed this when it was in, I don't know that it's in stock still, but we always run out instantly. But we were looking through it and we practiced that grip, or how to like get that, turn the wrist. And I had never learned that before, and I learned it and I know it. And there was something that went up in my head that was just like, this is the most beautiful thing in the world. Like, I learned something. Thankfully, I haven't had to activate that knowledge in a necessary way. But when you make that connection to a book, I mean, I think that's kind of, more broadly why we all share this affinity with bookmaking, is that there are narratives that we can distribute broadly to people that we can't necessarily know in person, and offer something to their lives or to their perspective landscape. So I learned that. and that's a way that I can take care of myself. And so I thank you for that. And then I had this observation that felt a little like not exactly right, but it really feels like I never felt good about having mace in my backpack or something. But because of this small portability of this zine, it's not, of course, as though, this, like you were referencing, this sort of maybe idealized is a weird way to say it, but idealized encounter with violence is like, oh, let me get my zine out and then learn how to disarm you. But there's something that kind of takes the place of what mace intellectually provides for us, and actually deepens. There's community in that too. It's not just a product that you bought that may or may not be effective. Please make more.
I want to, and I will.
Yeah, I also want to mention too, I really appreciate you've talked a lot about self-defense, and it's really interesting, and I can't wait to see what you're doing with Queer Fight School in Texas. But I want to mention that Mylo is a very talented and experienced illustrator, and is actually the illustrator for the logo for my favorite book, and we were so lucky to work with them on this. And you also used to, operate your own zine distro, within which you were, a pretty prolific zine and bookmaker. I don't want to put you on the spot if that's not territory you wanted to go into, but I just felt like, in representing your work, I wanted to bring in a lot of that experience that you had as well, in addition to the self-defense experience.
Yeah, I mean, I truly, you're probably the same way, because that's how we met, is tabling zines next to each other, and I love that. Yeah, I love bookmaking. I love zines. I currently teach art here in Texas, and so I get to do this a lot with students. I get to make zines. Right now I'm working with some middle schoolers, and we're putting a mural up in their middle school. And yeah, zines have been a big part of my life, and both my artist career and in relation to my queer identity. I used to run a distro called We're Here, We're Queer, and we both wrote and just carried zines that were about queer history and queer politics. And that project lasted a pretty long time, probably 6 or 7 years. And tabling for that project was how I got to meet you, and which is so amazing. And I'm just so grateful for the experiences that being a bookmaker has given me. I've just met some amazing people, and even some of the people that Bookland carries, like Shayna Agid, who I love, has been one of my mentors. And so I'm just this community of bookmakers and artists that care about people's social well-beings and care about political environments. It feels like a good home for me. And yeah, I really enjoy being here.
Cool. I'll just mention, if anybody else has comments, now's the time to put them in the chat. Where can people buy a copy of this at this point?
Um, I mean, I think I owe y'all some copies of it, so
Good. Do you?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Probably. You can hit me up on Instagram. I'll try and send some to Brooklyn.
Cool. Let me flash that again. Okay, so Handmade Mendez.
Yeah.
For anybody who wants copies, I'll follow up with you for copies at Brooklyn that we can distribute. We will thankfully, gratefully do that. Any closing thoughts? Anything you want anybody to know about what you're up to?
I don't think so. I mean, I'm not great at the internet, but if I'm doing something, it'll be on Handmade Mendez probably.
Okay, awesome. Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. Let's see. So Monday is the last time this week we're going to do an episode. And then on Monday, we're going to start again with another person who lives in Texas, which I guess I can just call a Texan. I don't know why that sounded wrong. It's not wrong. Candace Hicks, she's a very incredible artist. She does hand embroidered books out of fabric, and it will blow your mind in a totally different way than your mind was blown tonight. Thank you so much, Mylo. Folks know how to get in touch with you. The only closing comment I have is if you liked what you saw and you would like to get reminders on seeing more, please do the subscribe wherever it may be on the screen. Is it here? Is it there? Please hit subscribe and come back any night, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday in the month of June, 7 to 7:30. We'll see you again soon. Bye, Mylo. Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you.